As if this world isn't crazy enough, now track and field has become a contact sport. Probably a lot of you have already seen the video from the Class 3A State Indoor Track and Field Championships in Virginia this week, where in the 4x200 relay, one of the runners decided, well, instead of doing what 99.9% of other runners do, which is go as fast as you can and get the baton to the next person on the next leg, no, instead, I'm going to take my baton and I'm going to bash another girl in the head with it. Just what the heck was going through your mind? Now, quickly recapping, for those who may not be familiar with this story, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Aaliyah Everett from I.C. Norman High School in Portsmouth, Virginia, was rounding a curve when Kaylin Tucker, who's from Brookville High School, excuse me, she started to pass her, and the two nearly collided. Well, one story is the two nearly collided. There's another story in there that's saying they actually did bump up against one another. Now, on the video, clear as day, from about two different angles, you see Everett raise her baton, and she clubs Tucker on the head, causing her to stumble off the track, fall to the ground. Not only that, but Tucker wound up with a concussion and a possible skull fracture. Just what would possess Everett to bash this poor girl over the head with her baton? I mean, you think this is like the first time that two runners have almost collided on a track, or if what another story says that they kind of bumped together. I could probably get track and field athletes from Prescott and Bradshaw Mountain and Chino Valley and Embry-Riddle in here who could probably tell stories about near collisions or bumping up against another runner. And you know what? They don't try to clobber the other person. So what's different with Everett? Don't know. Because in spite of the video evidence, she's playing the victim in all of this. I actually saw a couple of interviews where Everett is turning on the waterworks and claiming this was an accident and how she would never do anything like this, even though the video says otherwise. And there was I can't believe this one. This is whack. There was even a rally at her school to support her Bravo Sierra story, and that's about the cleanest way I can say it on the air. Now, it wasn't a very big rally. I mean, it looked like, when you look at the video, it looked like maybe only a few dozen people showed up to this thing, which shows that in a country the size and scope of the United States, you can find at least a few people who are willing to swallow your bogus story. And even though Everett called this an accident, apparently claiming her arm got tangled up with Tucker's, which you can see in the video is definitely not the case, I haven't seen anywhere where she actually apologized for what she did. No, instead, she's just crying over this, begging people to feel sorry for her. And to me, it demonstrates one of the big problems that we have in this country, which is narcissism, which dovetails into a lack of accountability. Yeah, I bleeped up, but it's not my fault. I'm a victim of circumstance. And how dare you criticize me for my actions? I'm a really wonderful person, and you can't judge me for what I did. And then being invited on news programs to peddle your woe is me crud only reinforces that attitude. Don't take responsibility for your actions, even when the whole world can see what you did right there on the video. Man, and you know what? And I thought sovereign citizens were masters at denying reality. Oh, and you know what? It doesn't help that she has a mother who goes, oh, my precious baby would never do anything like that. She's the most wonderfulest, bestest girl in the whole wide world. So when you have a parent like that, I mean, is it any wonder that Everett turned out the way she did? Instead of having a parent who would drag you off the track and go, what the heck were you thinking out there? Now, thankfully, the Commonwealth attorney for Lynchburg, Virginia, isn't buying Everett's "I'm the real victim" story because she has been charged with misdemeanor assault and battery over this incident, and rightly so, in my opinion. Everett can say all she wants about being judged from one angle on a 9-second video, but again, you can clearly see her rear back and conk Tucker over the head with the baton. So, yeah, you are being judged on that 9-second video because actions have consequences, and probably for the first time in your life, you're being held accountable for your actions. And this is why when young people screw up, you need to hold their feet to the fire so they can learn their lesson and come away from the situation a better person. You don't do that, and you wind up with someone like Everett who will never accept responsibility for anything and who'll shed tears and try to convince everyone to feel sorry for her. And who knows what that attitude will result in down the road when she's out of school, when she's on her own. I mean, hey, go to YouTube. YouTube is filled with videos of Karens who get arrested and scream and cry and threaten because they went through their entire lives without having someone tell them no or your behavior is unacceptable. Man, what has happened to the world of track and field? Jeez. Anyway, folks, 928-541-1016, number to call here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup. Again, 928-541-1016. You know, we're in the middle of, well, we don't have indoor track and field season here, but we have started outdoor track and field season. So let's hope that we don't have any incidents like this among our Tri-City area athletes. I seriously don't think we will have that because in my 20-plus years covering local sports in this area, we've never had anything like that happen. I know when I was back in New Jersey, we had an incident of, and this was actually an accident where there was a high school track and field athlete who actually got nailed in the throat with a javelin. Thankfully, that person lived. But again, that was an accident. That was definitely an accident. It also led to them banning javelin in track and field events in the state of New Jersey, and I think throughout a good portion of the country. Thankfully, it's coming back, and I guess they've made javelins a little safer now, I guess. And also they probably have rules saying, hey, we don't want anyone anywhere near the javelin area when they're throwing. But again, difference between an accident and someone winding up and conking someone on the head with a baton purposefully. Anyway, folks, 928-541-1016. Number to call here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup. Time to take a break. When we come back here, we're going to be talking Embry-Riddle sports. We're not going to be talking about the softball team's doubleheader today with Westcliff because, well, there won't be a doubleheader with Westcliff because, as you can see, Old Man Winter has decided, hey, there's only one more week left until spring officially starts, so I'm going to try to get in as much snow as possible before then. So, yes, that is postponed. But there's a lot of other stuff we can talk about involving Embry-Riddle sports, and we've got their athletic director, Phil Hess, here on the show, so we'll be talking to him on the other side of the break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to the Tri-City Sports Roundup. John Rust with you here. And yes, Monday is St. Patrick's Day, so gotta crank out some of our St. Patrick's Day bumpers. And that was from the Wolf Tones. Come out, ye black and tans, a great Irish rebel song if there ever was one. And now, Phil, I'm starting to slip into a little Irish accent here, I think.
You are.
Yeah.
It's
well,
pretty good.
I am part Irish. So I got to delve into my roots here, especially getting the bumper music out today for this show.
No, I liked it. It's a good start.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, folks, Phil Hess, athletic director here for Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And, Phil, obviously a disappointing last couple of days. You had a doubleheader scheduled for softball with actually a former Cal-Pac rival in Westcliff. But unfortunately, the weather had other ideas.
Yeah, it's been a little bit interesting the last couple of weeks. Even last week we had this. It's been nothing but shuffling games around and rescheduling buses, and it's been interesting.
Yeah, so kind of talk about that process and all the hoops you got to jump through when, like, at the last minute you got to change these schedules. You have to delay games, and some of these games can't even be made up.
No, well, for a non-conference game, it's not that big a deal, so we're not going to make those up because we don't have enough room in the schedule going forward. But, yeah, when the stuff comes up, we look at the weather that's expected to come in and say, oh, hey, it looks like it might have some snow, so what's going to go on with the softball games last weekend with Ben U, right? So we're looking at the schedule and say, yeah, this game we're not going to be able to get this one in. The fields, we know we're going to get snow. We're going to cancel that game, so we're going to shift one day. And then the weather hangs around a little bit longer, so then we have to shift 2 days. And then the baseball team is going down to Benue, and then they get rain down there too, so we have to cancel that game and shift the buses around. And one bus company that had our trip for Friday, they can't do it on Saturday, so then we have to find another bus company. And yeah, that was 2 days of my life.
Well, not only that, but along with you, it's also thinking about the other team, because maybe it's one thing for Benedictine Mesa, who, maybe it's a 2.5 hour drive up from Mesa to get here, but Westcliff, it's a several hour trip coming from California to get here. So it's kind of like, do we have him come here and not even play a single game, or just in advance just say, hey, we're just completely canceling this weekend, so just stay over there in California?
Well, this has been a problem all spring for a lot of people out here in the West. We went up to College of Idaho a couple of weeks ago, both baseball and softball, and couldn't get games in. A lot of the teams up in the Northwest have had problems. It's been a thing with the winter weather, with the late winter weather out here.
Yeah, I guess that's the problem when you have baseball and softball like starting in February. It's like you never know what's going to happen. Is it going to be a dry winter? Is it going to be a winter where it's just snow, rain, and all kinds of nastiness? And what are we supposed to do?
Well, I remember we were actually talking about that when we hired our coach for our softball coach, Nicole Hennessy. And she was like, well, how much does it get out here? And I said, we get a little bit of snow every once in a while, but it doesn't really affect the games too much, Of course, since she's been here, we've lost quite a few games, it seems like. So I guess I kind of didn't hit that one on that. Maybe not talk to her about it. But she's a trooper with that stuff, and she hangs in there with it. And, we got a free weekend off for the softball team this week.
Oh, man. Well, at least baseball is able to get their games in this weekend.
Yeah, they were even a little concerned about that going up there. They changed the game time. They're up in Utah this week, playing Utah Valley University, and we had to move the games up. They were going to play night games the first couple of days up there, and they moved them up because they were a little bit worried about the weather. But I was watching the game on video yesterday, and they didn't have anything come through, and I haven't heard anything from them today. So I think they're going to be okay up there. They'll get their games in. A little iffy coming back maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, because like for people like me, for our listeners, when a game gets postponed, you just come on here and say, yes, the Embry-Riddle Westcliff game was postponed. But probably after that, you don't think of like all the juggling that folks behind the scenes have to do, like Coach Hennessy, like you, like Eric Fundelevich, the assistant AD over there, and probably a lot of other people, like your athletic secretary, Liz.
Well, unfortunately, Liz is no longer with us, but that's why I was having to do all the bus things last week. But no, yesterday we were out there at 9:30 in the morning trying to look at the field and see if we were going to be able to get it playable, and it was about a half-hour discussion between the four of us out there trying to figure out what we can do with the infield, if we're going to be able to get the snow off. And then we knew clouds were coming in, so we didn't know that we were pretty sure that the snow wasn't going to go away. So we said, okay, we're going to cancel today, and we called the coach from Westcliff and he said, we'll go back out at 2 o'clock. He was able to get the hotel to let them stay until 2 o'clock without a charge if they had to leave. And we said we'll go back out at 2 o'clock, reassess the field, and it was kind of a funny situation. Someone came in to meet with Coach Hennessy right before 2 o'clock. So she was in her office until a few minutes after 2 o'clock. Eric and then Nicole and I walked out to the field, and the Westcliff coach called and said, well, we're just going home since you didn't call us at 2 o'clock. I'm like, dude, we said we were going to come out at 2 o'clock. Give us a few minutes to actually make the decision. But, that was their decision. They'd had a rough trip. I felt bad for them. They were supposed to play at Park before us, and that got rained out. I think they had a couple games down in Tucson that didn't happen. And so it was a long trip for them to not – when you're on a long trip like that, you want to play games. It's no fun just sitting around a hotel room. So they were frustrated. I got it. But, at the end of the day, like I say, softball team got a free weekend off.
Yeah, well, at least one team that was able to get their contest in because they don't play outdoors, they play indoors. And that was, of course, the Embry-Riddle wrestling team. Had a great capper to their season. 4 All-Americans at the NAIA National Tournament in Wichita. And again, just another great job by KC Rock, and I had him on here a couple of weeks ago along with Keller Rock and Jonah Chu, and just saying it's like how great is it that here in little old Prescott we can have a college wrestling team that's ranked number 5, number 6 in the entire nation, and do it in probably one of the toughest conferences for wrestling in the nation.
They have done a fantastic job this year. I don't know if Coach Rock had that kind of expectation, but he did a great job. The wrestlers did a great job. They finished 6th in the nation. That's a real testament to that program. We're so happy about that and proud of them. They did a great job. And some of the matches that they had at the Nationals were just hard fought, close. We were that close to having a couple more All-Americans, and it was a great season for them. And it's going to really build the road forward for them. But you're right, the Cascade Conference is pretty tough.
I think it's about 4 or 5 teams, including Embry-Riddle, all ranked in the top 25. But I think to Riddle's credit, it shows how they can hold their own in such a competitive conference and come away as the conference runners up this year.
No, Coach Rock has got a really good eye for talent in wrestling and the right guys to come in and wrestle for us at Riddle. And he just does a fantastic job every year. You would think that a school like us might not have a great wrestling program, but we do. And it's a testament to Coach Rock and his guys, that all the hard work that they put in. I mean, you walk down the hall every day, the wrestling room's right down at the end of the hallway, and they're always in there all day long. You can hear the music pounding out through the door. They're in there working their butts off. So they do a great job.
Well, and like you said, a lot of people would be surprised by how Riddle can have such a great wrestling team, considering, say the limited scope of majors you have over there. But it's not just Riddle wrestling, it's all your teams. And I think what's really helped out is probably over the last 15, 20 years, how you've added a lot of other majors where it's not just, flying, it's not just engineering anymore. I mean, you've got global securities and intelligence studies, you got meteorology over there. Was it global supply chain management? Whatever that really long major is over there. Forensic biology, forensic psychology. So that opens a door for a lot of other athletes who say, okay, I'm not an engineer, I don't like flying, but hey, maybe I want to get into intelligence or law enforcement, and GSIS, that sounds like a great place for me.
The funny thing is, you look at all those, the diversity of the majors certainly helps us when we go out recruiting, but if you look at our majors that we have in the department, the majority are still flight and engineering. And, there's a real niche out there for those kind of kids. I saw the same thing when I worked at MIT. The interesting thing that happened there is up until the athletic director that I worked for at that time, before she got there, it was kind of like a high school model. And they just, hey, you want to come out for the football team or whatever? Well, they weren't very good. Then the new AD came in and she convinced the administration, said, hey, let us go out and recruit these kids. And all of a sudden we were successful, and one year we finished in the top 5 in the country in the Directors Cup. So those kids are out there. It's a little hard to go find them sometimes, but you're right, John. Some of the other majors certainly helps us attract some of the other kids and fill out the rosters. But it's an interesting watching the kids come in and do all those different things. And some of those things they come in and talk about, like you're talking about global supply chain and forensic accounting and all that kind of stuff. I think, God, what do you guys do? That's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, and then you look at where they go. I mean, immediately after graduation, because I remember McKaylee Davidson from the softball team a couple of years ago. I just remember on senior day with her when they said, yes, McKaylee will be working for an undisclosed agency within the Department of Defense, and I'm sitting there going, what is this undisclosed agency? What are you going to be doing? Like looking at, UAPs, UFOs for the more conventional out there, or like working with like Stargates or whatever. It's like, what the heck is this? But still, I mean, pretty impressive that you haven't even gotten your degree yet, and you've already got a job lined up at DOD.
Oh, some of these kids already have jobs lined up after their junior years. It's amazing the demand and the talent that we have. In our department for these positions is just incredible. Gee, right? It's pretty. Hey, what are you doing, Johnny? Well, I can't tell you. Well, and that happens more often than not, and it's cool. It's really cool that these kids go out and they're just killing it out there.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, folks, in the studio with me today, I've got Phil Hess, the athletic director at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and we'll be talking more about stuff going on up at ERAU on this. Snow-covered Saturday morning here in the Tri-City area. So we're going to take a break here on the show. But before we go to break, as always, it's time to see who shined over the last 7 days as we present the Tri-City Sports Roundup 3 Stars of the Week. Excuse me for that. Still have a little allergy issue here, folks. Our number 3 star is Trinity Gray of the Chino Valley Track and Field team as we start off with the ladies. She won the girls' 1,600-meter run at the Boulder Creek multi-meet on Wednesday. The number 2 star is Mackenzie Durr of the Yavapai College softball team. She was the winning pitcher with 8 strikeouts in the Lady Riders' 11-0 rout of Western Nebraska Tuesday. And our number 1 star of the week is Kinsey Murphy of the Chino Valley softball team. She had 2 wins and 18 strikeouts at the Wrangler Invitational last Saturday. Now for the guys. Our number 3 star is Jesse Capping of the Embry-Riddle baseball team. He was the winning pitcher with 9 strikeouts in the Eagles' 5-3 victory over Dickinson State Monday. The number 2 star is Luke Mason of the Prescott Track and Field team. He placed first in the javelin at the Rattler Invitational last Saturday. And our number 1 star of the week is Dylan Eisner of the Embry-Riddle Track and Field team. He won the 10K race at the Oxy Distance Carnival last Saturday. Congratulations to all of our 3 stars of the week. Break time here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Tri-City Sports Roundup. John Rust with you here, along with Embry-Riddle Athletic Director Phil Hesson. For those of you listening on the radio side, listening to our bumper music. Yes, some more bumper music to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. That one is another great Irish rebel song, The Foggy Dew, done on the bagpipes by, well, I think she bills herself as India's first professional bagpiper, Archie J, the Snake Charmer. Oh, man, if you have not checked out her music, if you have not checked out her stuff, definitely got to do that. She is an incredible talent. Also a pretty good singer, too. But anyway, the Snake Charmer, check her out on YouTube. Love her version of the Foggy Dew. Awesome. Just awesome song. Yeah, Phil, we were talking about this before the show. It's like, is there going to be like any musical references and everything? Well, I guess there's got to be on St. Patrick's Day.
There has to be on St. Patrick's Day, of course.
Yeah.
Is that a little bit of green I'm detecting in your collar there, John?
Do I have any green on? Yes, I do have a little green on there. I just grabbed this out of the drawer, too. It's like, oh, my Ohio University T-shirt. Let me do that. Of course, Ohio University, you know who their most famous alum is? The greatest third baseman who ever played Major League Baseball?
For you, that's going to be Mike Schmidt, right?
Bada bing, baby! Bada bing! So anyway, that's one of the reasons why I got this T-shirt.
See, I know my John Rust.
Well, anyway, off the air, we were talking about former Embry-Riddle athletes, and some of our listeners may remember Nick Johnson, definitely one of the top players to ever come out of the Embry-Riddle men's basketball team. And for those who are wondering, whatever happened to Nick Johnson? What's he up to these days? Well, Phil, you've got some pretty interesting stories about what Nick Johnson is doing today.
Yeah, he went into the FBI and is working counterterrorism in New York City. And part of his thing there, I don't exactly know how it works, and I might be getting this wrong, so don't hold me to it. But he did worked for the FBI for a couple of years, and then he went, and I'm not sure if he actually went into the Army or he just was part of it, but he was in the Rangers for a couple of years, went through all the Ranger training, and then he's back to the FBI now. So that's pretty interesting. He was at one of our basketball games a couple of weeks ago, and it's fun to talk to him about that. What he can tell you anyway. But it's pretty interesting. And boy, he looks like a Ranger now. He really if he'd been built like that when he was playing basketball, man, we might have won a couple more games.
Oh man, and anyway, I think that's one of the really great things that we've seen in Embry-Riddle. How the athletic program over there has not only grown but progressed as far as talent, as far as success goes. And again, credit to all the coaches, because kind of like what we were talking about, it's like a very delicate balance. Like you want to find really good athletes, but also athletes who can meet kind of the academic requirements at Embry-Riddle. And it just seems like all of the coaches have just done a masterful job in finding that mix.
They do a great job in finding that mix. And the cool thing is that when you get a Riddle student, like we like to call them, and they're already kind of driven, right, to do all that kind of fun academic stuff that we were talking about before. Now you put athletics on top of it, they're even more driven. And when we get them in here, they're so focused on both their athletics and their academics, they just shine. Mm-hmm. And it's been, like you say, we've worked hard to grow that over the last few years since I've been here. And we're pretty proud that the department GPA has slowly crept up, and now we're over a 3.5. Mm-hmm. I didn't even get a 3.5 in college. I mean, that's amazing to have these kids do that kind of work. That's not easy, and do athletics at the same time. We're super proud of them.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, and again, hopefully we've helped with this KYCA. Covering Riddle sports as much as we have. But I'm sure that you would like to see maybe a little more community support for the athletic programs and more people coming out there. Do you feel like you guys are maybe starting to make inroads, starting to make an effort to kind of let people know about, hey, we've got some really great college teams up here at Embry-Riddle, so come on out and check them out?
I think we are. I mean, it's this it's hard at the small college level to get people to come out to your games sometimes, but we're getting there. And you look at the women's soccer program. Todd and Liz have done a great job with that program. They get out in the community responds and comes back and supports them. We're going to be doing more of that with the rest of our teams in the future. So all of you listeners out there, you see the Embry-Riddle? We were in the Christmas parade this year. stuff like that. The basketball team is starting to get some more attention now. We're getting more folks out for those games. So it's going to build on itself. And once it starts building and once people start realizing what we have on campus over there, they're going to come out. So it's a little bit of a work in progress. We've got some ideas that we're going to try to do for next year and get more people involved in the community to come out to our games and stuff like that. But we're going to get there, and hopefully in the next year or two, we're going to have some pretty big crowds out there.
Okay, hopefully, definitely, and I think that's the other thing, along with generating community interest that way. There's also a lot of things that probably a lot of our listeners, don't see from Embry-Riddle, more behind the scenes stuff, where you guys do a lot of community service projects with all the teams involved at Embry-Riddle.
We do. Last week, the weather canceled that, unfortunately, but we do the Read Across America. That was last week. It was supposed to have been last week. That got canceled because of the snow. But we do a lot of that. The cross-country team was doing some work in town with some providing breakfast, I think it was. We're all over the place and doing things like that. There's Stepping Stones, I think, over in Prescott Valley. We do a lot of work with them. Each team kind of has its own little thing that it likes to do. We've worked with the Y and had their kids come out and play games during basketball games and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of different things that we do in the community. We've had some the wrestlers went up to Chino, and we're helping out with I think it was the middle school up there with some of the coaching and stuff like that. So we're out there and doing what we can to help our great community here.
Yeah. And again, I think that goes to show that when coaches do go out and recruit, it's not just all about your athletic talent. It's not just all about grades. They want to get a person who is of good character, who when they come to this school, they're not only going to be a benefit to the team and the school, but also a benefit to the entire community.
That's one of the cool things about our kids is they're all like that. And it kind of, makes my job easy. I don't have to worry about the kids getting in trouble or anything like that, or being in my office for disciplinary things or anything like that, because they're all great kids. And, it's also a testament to the coaching staff and who they're out there recruiting. But they're just such great kids and great citizens and everything. They enjoy doing that stuff. We have these SAC meetings. It stands for Student Athlete Advisory Council, but it's a group of student athletes. There's representatives from each team that meet once every couple of weeks. And that's the things that they like to do. They like to put together things like that are community service type things or a service to the rest of campus. They enjoy doing that stuff, and they're not doing it because they want the attention. They do it because they really want to do those kinds of things. And, as a department, we're going to have the color run again this year on campus, and that was wildly successful last year. And we've already, the campus social media already posted some stuff out from it last year, just yesterday, I think it was. So we're looking forward to doing stuff like that and getting more involvement on campus too with our program. So it's fun working with these kids. They're just a joy to be around, and that's why I come to work every day.
Yeah, and I can testify to that too. All the times I go up there to cover games, do live stream, or do play-by-play on the live streams, or even have some of your kids in here. They really are a joy to be around, and a joy to talk to. I can remember last year I had a couple of. I had a couple members of the golf team in here. Haley Stevenson was one of them, two-time conference champion. And I thought one of the really cool things there, it wasn't even just talking about golf. It was talking about how she was involved in, I think, salsa dancing when she was in high school, and how she got involved with that. It's like, oh, yeah, I was just in my Spanish class, and my teacher wanted me to do this, and I figured I'd do it. But again, just so many interesting backgrounds with these kids.
Well, you walk around the department every day and interact with them, and John, they pick on you, they pick on me. They're fun to be with, and yesterday I was walked in, and some of the softball players were in the gym pitching, to get their bullpens in, and they stop and we sitting there talking with them, and we're cutting up with them, and they're just so much fun to be around, and they're such wonderful human beings. It's just amazing that they're able to do what they do, both academically and athletically, but there's so much fun to be around too. I had to drive the women's golf team up to Boulder City last Saturday for their meet up there, or for their competition up there. And I had 3 of the upperclassmen in the car with me, and hadn't even gotten to Chino yet, and they're starting to pick on me about this, that, and the other thing. And one of them's going to get married this next summer, and they were talking about all the wedding stuff, and it's just fun to see them as real people like that.
Oh, definitely. One of the reasons why I like having him on the show, where it's more than just here's a quick soundbite from the game, here's how many points they got. It's like we can actually talk to them and find out a little more about their background, why they got into basketball, why they got into their particular major, and of course, like what teammate can like eat the most in one sitting and all that fun stuff. One among my favorite questions there. But anyway, Phil, I mean, you're the athletic director at Embry-Riddle, but kind of your path to becoming an athletic director, getting involved in athletics, it didn't. I think that path didn't really start out in athletics. So tell us about this journey that you went on to get to where you are now as athletic director at Embry-Riddle.
Well, I'm gonna have to fess up, John. I guess you caught me. I'm a Riddle kid. I'm just like them. So when I was growing up, I played baseball, and I said, well, that's not going to be for me. So I'm not going to be good enough to do that. So I said, I've always liked airplanes and everything else. I didn't become a pilot, although I do have a pilot's license. I went to University of Michigan, got my aerospace engineering degree, got a job at NASA, and worked at NASA for 9 years on the space shuttle program. So, yeah, I'm probably the only athletic director in the country that has that background. There was one other guy that was in the master's degree program with me that was an engineer, but he went into professional golf. So he didn't go into college athletics. But, no, I was actually at home one day watching ESPN, and they had this thing. You speak about Ohio University. They had this thing on about baseball. All these baseball executives in baseball at that time had gotten their master's degrees at Ohio University in their sports administration program. And it just kind of a light bulb went off in my head. I don't know. It just stayed there, and it stuck there, and it just slowly simmered, and I finally decided that's what I wanted to do. And my goal at the time was to do that, go into professional baseball. And I got back, I went to the University of Richmond to get my degree and got on campus and realized, actually, I became really good friends with their assistant SID there. His name's Phil Stanton. And he had been working for the Richmond Braves in AAA baseball. And the Braves got a new owner, and they fired the entire staff and put their own staff in. And when he was telling me about the job, I'm like, I don't want to get fired for no reason. I said, that doesn't sound like, but being back on campus, and I just fell in love with college athletics again. And that's what I decided to get into. So I got into it. I got my foot in the door at Wofford College in South Carolina. I started doing just all sorts of stuff. It was my internship for my degree. I didn't know what a sports information director was at the time. The SID came out, and he was a one-man shop at that point. He asked me to help him do some things. I kind of fell in love with that, doing stats and stuff. That kind of came naturally to me because of my numbers background. So I got into sports information. Did that for 25 years, started at the Division I level, came back down to the Division III level, and just bebopped around all over the country. That's kind of the way it works in college athletics. You just keep moving up the ladder. I was at Millsaps College in Jackson, Mississippi, and this assistant AD job opened up at Embry-Riddle. And I'm like, I just kind of got here, right? I don't know if I should be doing that but I had, oh gosh, where was it? Someone, I think it was when I was working at MIT, a friend of a friend actually moved here to Prescott. And the friend that worked at MIT with me came out there with him, and they were talking, hey, Prescott's such a great place, blah, 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 blah. And I was looking at all this stuff online and said, oh, it does look like a nice place. I said, I can see myself living in Prescott. I'd worked in Utah for a while at Utah State University, and I really liked it out here in the West. So I remember one day I was sitting in my office at home, and I looked down at my dog I had at the time. I said, dude, this is not going away in the back of my mind. I said, I got to apply. And it was like the last day that you could apply. And I applied, and lo and behold, I got the job, and here I am as athletic director. I never envisioned myself in this role. All my years working as a sports information director, I looked at my athletic directors and like, man, I don't want your job. You have to deal with all this other stuff. I said, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And 4 years ago now, Jamie, our previous athletic director here at Riddle, walked in my office and said that she was leaving, and that I was going to be moved into the athletic director role as an interim director. And I got into the chair, and we were talking about how great our kids are. And I realized after doing it for 6 months that I really wanted to do it for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed the role, and I think I've grown into it pretty well, and I really enjoy what I do now. It's a lot of fun doing what I can to help these kids become great citizens down the line.
Yeah. And of course, going from space shuttles to athletic director. Well, at least for the engineering students, you can actually have a good conversation with them about this kind of stuff. When it comes to me, I'm just like, I know that when I hit the start button on my Mazda CX-30, the engine starts. How that actually happens, I don't know.
It's funny, one of our women's basketball players, who shall not be named because she has not come in and fulfilled her end of the bargain yet.
Ooh.
I have a thing on my wall in my office. It's a flag that flew on the space shuttle. That was the first mission after the Challenger accident.
Oh, okay.
And all of us that worked on the mission got that plaque. So it's hanging on my wall, and she came in my office for something one day, and she's an aerospace engineer major, and she looked at that and she goes, "Oh my God, you worked on the space shuttle? I got to come back and talk to you about this." Well, she hasn't, but it's interesting to see a lot of them don't know that, and when they find out, that you can see there's, I don't want to say it's a total different way of respect or anything like that, but it's just like, oh wow, you're just like me. And they get that. So it really helps me do my job to make that connection with them. And like I said, it's just, they don't see me as like the boss or the athletic director. Sometimes like, oh, I have to go to the athletic director's office. That's bad. They don't see it that way because of that connection that I have with them. So it makes my job even easier and I'll have to admit, way more fulfilling.
Yeah. All right. Well, unfortunately, we're coming up to the end of our show here, but I want to thank Phil Hess, Athletic Director for Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, for joining us here on the show. Phil, always a pleasure to have you on. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And hopefully next week I'll get to see you out there at Embry-Riddle. Hopefully all this snow, crud, and everything will be out of the way, and we can get in some baseball and softball games over there.
Well, we're going to have a little surprise for you when you come out next week, too, John. We made a little change at the baseball field for you.
Is it a change in a good way or not?
I don't know. You'll have to come out and see.
Oh, jeez. Just extend the drama, I guess. I should have known better than to ask that. Anyway, thanks a lot, Phil. Good to see you again.
No problem, John. Thanks for having me.
All right. Hey, folks, we got a bunch of basketball games over on the team 14:50 a.m. today. Right now, Bryant versus Maine. We've also got Tennessee versus Auburn at 9:45 a.m., Alabama versus Florida, 2:30 p.m., U of A versus Houston, and then 5, that's going to be for the Big 12 Conference Championship, 5 p.m., the ACC Championship, Louisville versus Duke. College basketball all day on the team 14:50 a.m. today. Check it out, and we'll see you again next